Okay, it's time to commit. 2024 is the year for prioritizing yourself. Begin your new smile journey with Byte, and you could start seeing results in just 2 to 3 weeks. Just order your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95 at Byte.com. Byte Clear aligners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces. Plus, they offer financing options, accept eligible insurance, and you can pay with your HSA, FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th.
We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
And welcome back to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth.
In each episode, our special guest or guests will bring with them a movie that traumatized them as a child.
This week, our guests are Matt Angel and Suzanne Coote. They're the filmmaking duo behind movies like The Open House and Hypnotic, but their latest film, The Wrath of Becky, sequel to Becky, is out now in theaters. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
We're really excited to chat with you. Yes. And speaking of Wrath of Becky, can you tell our listeners a little bit about this movie in case they haven't seen it yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Wrath of Becky is a R-rated action horror comedy revenge flick that tells the story of Becky. She doesn't have a last name.
Yeah, what is her last name?
Rebecca.
We're terrible.
That tells
With the good hair.
Becky Rebecca.
That tells the story of a 16-year-old girl whose path crosses with a group of douchebag insurrectionists who take out a loved one and steal her dog. And did I say vengeance already? She seeks revenge.
You said revenge, so yeah.
Yeah, it's a.
Oh, yeah.
Did that do it? I don't know.
That was great. Matt's is so much better. I just say it's a movie about a 16-year-old girl killing Proud Boys.
And I go, we did.
I mean,
Proud Boys.
it's good. You've got like the log line, and then you've got like the nice synopsis, but you've got like the elevator pitch.
This is all of us. This is good cop, bad cop. This is us all the time. It's like,
if I'm a bad cop to Proud Boys, I think I can die happy.
Same.
You know what I'm saying?
That's the way to be.
That is the way to be. But so how did y'all get involved with making the sequel to Becky?
So the producers at Boulder Light, phenomenal producers, called us. We were friends with them like a couple years, like for 5 years.
Well, we had met them through work and just spent years getting to know them and trying to find something we could all do together.
Yeah. And then we were neighbors. I can talk to next door neighbors to Lulu Wilson. And
oh, wow.
In Studio City. And so we were it was just like fun friends. And
I'm going to take over this one too.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Because I just said it was fun friends. Yeah. Go ahead.
I got it. I liked it.
Thanks.
Fun friends.
You keep going. You got it.
Okay. I got this. And then they were like, do you want to make a tiny little sequel to that tiny little movie we made in 2020, Becky? And we were like, yeah. And then we were like, shit, we should probably see Becky because we were terrible friends.
Terrible friends.
Terrible fun friends. And
we've actually done interviews where we said we had seen it, and then we kind of started at one point being honest about it. So we're just going to come off like total psychopaths.
No, I'm pretty sure we've been honest.
Yeah.
Okay, well then. Okay, I think we were honest. I'm just gonna go with that because that makes me more comfortable. Okay. And we were like, yes, let's do it. And then Matt was like, maybe we should watch the first one first. And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then so we watched it. And we were like, fuck yeah. Like, good thing we said yes already. I mean, we knew, like, we would, like Lulu Wilson, I'd watch her paint like something. She's so funny and captivating.
She's great.
Yeah.
She has so much charisma on the screen.
Yes, she does. And then
some reviews have started rolling in, and I'm just so glad they're like, Lulu fucking Wilson, like it just makes me so happy because she's Becky. Like,
yeah,
it's just,
she's a star. So we were like, yeah, we'll do it. And then they're like, we need a script in 3 weeks. And I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, I'm not doing that. And like our child. And Matt was like, I guess I could do it. And I was like, yep. And so we broke the story. Matt wrote it in 3 weeks, and we were shooting like 2 months later.
I'm really glad she clarified it was our child, because a couple of weeks ago we were in a screening for the film, and during a Q&A with Seann William Scott after, she kept calling it her child, like my baby. She kept saying my baby.
He is my baby. He's also your baby.
The way in which she said it.
He's also our baby.
At some point I had to mid Q&A be like, you mean like our baby, right? Just like
just so everyone knows, like
yeah, just curious here.
Everyone knows now.
Wait, so you did this whole thing pregnant?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Like very pregnant.
We were on set right as she had just entered her 3rd trimester when we started production. And we were like,
oh my God. So you were like mega pregnant.
Yeah. Like I was actually flipping through pictures today thinking like, oh, what can I post when the movie hits on Friday? And
it's just various
adorable pictures of Suzanne like sitting on ladders in the forest with like her belly.
Yeah, and like eating so much food. Like he's being sweet that they're adorable.
We like shot in this bakery. Well, there's some that aren't adorable. Like we shot in this bakery. She grabbed this like foot-long elephant ear. What are they called?
Cookie,
palmier or something. Yeah, and she was just like,
yes. Oh my God.
Yeah, she was just like eating it, and like this just the most flattering picture in the world.
Yes,
she does that when she's not pregnant.
Yeah, I have no shame.
I don't know why I told that story.
I would do that. I would do the same thing.
The problem is, it was like very stale, and I finished it. That's the difference.
Meaning, you know,
yeah, there's not pregnancy.
Yeah, yeah.
So did you name your kid Becky?
No, but funny enough, at the end of the credits, the producers had the idea, and they were like, "What do you think?" And we were like, "All right, that's kind of adorable." At the end of the credits, it says,
"It's dedicated to our kid.
It's dedicated to our son." It says, "For Everett for surviving to Everett for surviving the trenches." Or
yeah,
or
because New Jersey is no joke, you guys.
No, so. I live on the East Coast, so I know.
Yeah, it's such a New Jersey. All those ticks.
So many ticks.
Were you shooting in the summer?
Yeah.
Oh, ew. Oh, you got like the full humid too, like the full East Coast humidity. Oh,
humidity.
And 8 months pregnant.
Roadkill up the yin yang. Everywhere you look, just dead animals. It was great.
Stanky.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
So I'm curious because I don't want to get into too heavy of spoilers, but there is this kind of MacGuffin that's introduced in the first film. And in here, there's a little bit more to it. And I'm curious if there was like originally any plans for that, or is that something you guys came up with to like be a continuing piece through it? Or how did that kind of get into the story?
I got this one.
Go ahead.
We were given a mandate, or like 2 mandates, maybe 3 mandates when we started this film. It was like, it needs to be bloody. Becky should be in it. No, I'm kidding. That wasn't a mandate. It needs to be bloody.
Becky, Rebecca.
Address the key. I think that was it.
Yeah, there were 2.
It was like bloody and key.
Bloody and key. And they didn't say, you got to wrap up the key. They were like, just talk about it.
Well,
like bring it back.
No. The mandate was you have to answer what the key is. And so the first draft of the script, yeah, that's why the first draft of the script, the first like, the opening of the film is like a 10-page sequence where you conclude the story from the first one in that with regards to the MacGuffin.
I forgot that.
And the more we kind of realized, okay, A, we can't afford that opening, and B, more importantly, this kind of device of this MacGuffin that isn't answered that pissed people off in the realm of Wrath of Becky being a little more tongue in cheek, leaning into that and being like, yeah, we're still not going to do it.
We'll give you a little more info, but not that.
Yeah, that was very important. So it was important to us that we identify what the key is for us, so we know where it's going. B, we give just enough information that we lock Quiver into doing a sequel because they have no choice.
You mean a third one?
That's still a sequel.
Is that a sequel?
Yeah.
Oh.
A threequel? I don't know.
Yeah.
Give them just enough that we're like, this is what it all means, and this is where it's going, and now you're screwed. You have to do it. And C, I forgot C, but basically, we're so tired.
We're sleep deprived
No,
because of that damn baby.
that child. But basically,
Harry's on muscle relaxers, and and I'm exhausted. So like, we're good. We're gonna get loopy. It's a little weird. It's okay.
Perfect. No, but it was very important to us to continue it in a tongue-in-cheek way, but we also know exactly what it is, and we know exactly where we want to take the story. And we do give a very, very specific clue in the film that we don't
shy away from.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah,
cool.
Oh,
hell yeah.
That's awesome. I'm also curious about Seann William Scott, because I know, like, in the first one we had oh my god, I just blanked on his name. I just keep thinking Paul Blart.
Kevin
James.
Oh my God,
I just in my head it's Paul Blart.
I'm so glad me forgetting C wasn't like that was great too.
Yeah.
But so in the first one, it was a comedian doing kind of like, a more horror-y villain type role. And now we also have Seann William Scott, who of course is known as like Stifler and more of the comedic kind of character, although he has done more serious stuff like Goon and whatnot, or more like anti-hero type stuff. I'm curious how he got kind of involved in this. Was there an idea of who you kind of wanted when you were setting out to write this? Or
yeah, we knew we wanted to continue the tradition of having a comedic actor or an actor known for their comedy in the role of the villain. And the process of making this film was so fast that really how it came about with Seann was his name was on a list, and we were like, oh, that's interesting. Because you just have like, I don't know, we just had
the Spidey sense.
I call it like our director's Spidey sense, where you're like, there's no reason why I can't explain why we thought he would.
No, there's something we saw his name and we were like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, because of how we saw the character, there was something very intriguing about it. And then we had our initial meeting with him.
And he was phenomenal and brought so many great ideas to the character and was so invested from day one. And this movie's only good because everyone worked their fucking asses off, from, the
Seann William
Scott to our PAs. Like, it was a hard movie to make. There was not basically a very tiny budget, and it's kind of not the movie you can just show up and do your job and leave. Like, it needed everyone to give everything they had, and they all did.
We have a minor in the lead role. We have a dog. We have stunts and squibs, so you have an armor on set at all times. We had special effects and makeup.
Did you say a dog already?
I said a dog.
Yeah, you say that twice.
A dog, another dog. No, just one dog, but like 5 days with the dog. So this was a ridiculously ambitious film, and Seann William Scott showed up to that first meeting with the attitude that you need to make a film like this. And that attitude was just like complete commitment to the character. We always like to say what Sid Field says, which is
Sidney Lumet.
Oh, it's Sidney Lumet. I always get that mixed up. Sidney Lumet says, which is actors are the head of their department. That's something we really subscribe to. And, like any of our heads of department,
you treat them with respect and you listen to them.
Yeah, Seann William Scott, Lulu, all the way down, our whole cast. They came to play, and they showed up, and they were great heads of their department.
Yeah, and an actor might come to you and say, I'd really like to say it like this, or I'd like to do this, and the same way a production designer might say, I think the table should be like this. I think the room should be like this. As a director, you can disagree, and you can go, thank you so much, but no, we're gonna stick with our vision. but you always hear them. And I'd say like maybe 65% of the time we're like, wow, that's a great idea.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
It's like, I mean, yeah.
There's no ego with us, and we give credit where credit is due. Like Sean's character, his whole backstory and everything, he brought that. And
Oh, wow.
So
there was like a very little on the page in terms of the backstory. And when we sat down with him, he wanted to like put that aside and go into the full military background. So, I mean, the whole monologue that Seann William Scott has on the couch in the den was something in that first meeting he pitched us the idea for. He said, I really want to do, what if, you know, what was like a third of a page for the character became like a 2-page monologue, because he's like, what if we expand upon that? And he tells a story about his, rather than the story he's telling in this current draft, he tells the story of his military background. And what we get through that story is his true like the true threat that Daryl Jr. poses, and the lengths he's willing to go to fight for what he believes in. And it was like, oh, done, enough said. Like, I went off and wrote it. And so that was our first meeting when he proposed that. And that's how he came about, you know, like the long-winded answer to your question, I think, is important because it's a testament to how much he brought to this and how engaged he was. And it was really wonderful.
How long of a shoot was this?
18 days.
Dang. You have to be committed. I mean, like, because there's not a lot of time for mess ups in that.
No.
And like you were saying, it wasn't like you were just doing a little like quiet 1-room indie like love story. You had you ran down everything. Like it was like you had everything packed in from an action movie into something so small. And that is both the beauty and the goddamn trouble with indie filmmaking. Is like
I mean,
being able to do that, but having to be able to do that. It's crazy.
And a big thing is we really wanted to elevate, you know, the first film is very handheld. It taps a lot. The cinematography, like my perception of it is it tapped a lot into the protagonist's kind of state of mind, right? Mm-hmm. You're on edge. The home has been invaded. Like you're not in control. And for us in this, Becky's in control. Becky's going to them. She's the hunter.
Yeah. And
so it was very important that we evolve the cinematography in this film to a place where it was sleek and just like way more movement and way more toys and stuff like that. And we had maybe a little more than half the budget of the first film. Yeah. So we're trying to do with like half of what they had, we're trying to make it look more bigger and smoother and sleeker and higher budget. So all of that,
and that's in huge part to our DP, Julia Swain.
Yeah, Julia Swain.
I talked to her. She's so cool.
She's unbelievable.
She's unbelievable.
She's going to be huge. She's already, I hate to say like going to be huge because she's doing so many big things, but like she's just going to keep climbing up in this industry. She's so talented.
She is really good. I had noticed when I was looking at her IMDb page that she did the cinematography for Lucky, which is another movie with very striking cinematography that is able to do so much with so little. And you're right. She is. I think she's going to be a force.
Yes.
Yeah, she is. I know
we love ourselves some Julia. She's the best.
AC.
The American Society of
Cinematographers. Yeah. They did a feature on her as like one of the 9 cinematographers to watch. So,
oh dang,
yeah,
that's so cool.
Okay, so I do want to ask about how the two of you started working together and like how this like directing writing partnership came to be.
You want me to do it?
Yes.
All right. So we actually met in the industry. Suzanne was in development. I was working with a different writing partner. And this is the very short version so that we can get to like how we started working together, because it's a crazy, like, who is
it's like a Nora Ephron
movie.
But like we don't know how to write that, or I don't.
Are you kidding?
He does. He could write the shit out of that.
I love me a romantic comedy.
He's a romantic comedy guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
fuck you, Suze. I kill that. We don't know how to write that.
Sorry.
That's insulting.
You don't. I'm like, well, where's the blood in this movie?
Anyway, so we through a wild series of events, we finally started dating 4 months after we had met. It doesn't sound like a long time, but it felt like a long time. And And she continued working in development, and I continued working as a writer. And at a certain point, we just we both wanted to direct, and I think it was like, well, the best way to do something is to like just make it happen. So we would come home from our day jobs, cook dinner, and like sit at the dinner table and write our first feature together, and that was The Open House. And we had just gotten engaged. And so like it was definitely a conversation of like, is this gonna fuck up our relationship? Let's find out and just do it. Yeah. Better to find out now than before we have the wedding. And we had so much fun, and it went so well that we were like, okay, well, what do we do with the script? Like we went through jumped through a couple different hoops trying to get it made in
a more traditional
sense. And then we were like, let's do this. The kind of like, let's just fucking do it. Let's figure it out. And so it became a very low budget film. We found like $100,000, a lot of which was our money and credit cards and all of that fun. And we were like, we're going to direct this thing together. So let's really put our relationship to the test. And before we get married, and see if we can fuck it up. Yeah. I love to say this because it's a fascinating truth to our story. We went to couples therapy before we ever stepped on set of The Open House, so that we could kind of figure out how, as a couple, to protect our relationship in a work environment, especially a high-stress work environment like filmmaking.
That's so smart. That is so smart.
Like the smartest thing we've ever done.
Yeah, like how we could maneuver situations that would arise. And like you go and you're like, yeah, like that sounds smart. And then things come up and you're like, oh shit, God. Yeah, I would have like freaked if that happened and I didn't know how to handle it. Or I would have dirty fought in that situation because I'd have been like, fine, fuck, whatever you want. And then like passive aggressive, or, all those things you can't do because you'll build resentment toward each other as business partners and on and on. And so it was foundational in our relationship as co-writer, co-directors, and invaluable. I don't think we would.
Yeah. Like we're very similar in our tastes. Obviously we're very different in the way we communicate. So I talk, and Matt thinks inside his head, and then
in my brain,
in your brain space. And then we'll come to a conclusion with his words. And I'm like, I need to know how you got there. I can't. And so it's about like me in those moments, giving grace to him, like let him get there. And then him going, this is how I got there. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. And it's like figuring out those little intricacies. And also our number one rule being, we don't ever, it's that resentment thing. We never throw our hands up and go, fine, you can have this one.
So like, for example, if we're like shot listing a scene and I think the opening shot should be this and he thinks it should be this, and we're arguing, and this is in prep, obviously no one has time for that shit on set. So
right.
We're like, no, it needs to be a close up. No, it needs to be on her finger. No, close up finger, close up finger. Fine, Matt.
What if it's a close up on her finger?
Okay, close up of her face, or close up of her finger, close up of her face, close up of her finger. Then, and I'm like, fine, Matt, you get it. You get her fucking finger. And then I'm like, well, next time I get to pick the shot to open the next scene. Like that can't happen.
Yeah.
Right.
The rule is we fight, argue, and it's not fighting. It's so fun. It's like debate club.
We have a great separation of work and relationship though. Like we have no problem doing dishes in our kitchen and being like, that's the fucking stupidest thing I've ever heard. Yeah. But as long as we're talking about work, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like we're able to separate the two.
Yeah. And then, and eventually, and this, we have 100% success rate. Eventually one of us goes, oh, it should be on her finger. You're right. Okay.
Yeah, we have to like convince the other person,
and there has to be
why
no
we're
ego.
right.
There's no ego, right? Like you're right. And it, when there's no ego, it feels so good that the other person's right.
It's usually like a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
You kind of go like, oh, you're right. I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you don't have any of that crap that you carry into the next conversation with.
We also work like crazy people because in prep, because in low budget films, you have 3 weeks to prep. So we have to have as many conversations as we can before we step on set, because there, like I said, there is no time to argue.
Yeah.
And it's also unprofessional. So we don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of a long way of saying how we met and how we work.
That's awesome though.
And then we got married because we didn't kill each other.
Yeah.
Yay! Nice kid.
Okay.
That's the end of the romantic comedy.
So let's take it back to kind of the beginning. How did you both get introduced to horror as kids?
Mine was through my aunt.
Well, I'll go first because yours is cooler.
Why?
Because we'll save the better for last.
Okay. Now I'm concerned because I don't know why mine's cooler.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Mine was through my aunt. We would, my sister and I would go over to her house for sleepovers, and she's such a huge horror person. And it would be like dead calm one night, and then I wouldn't, I'd be like 6, and I wouldn't sleep for like 2 weeks, and my mom would be like, "You're, God damn it, like Sarah, Aunt Sarah." And I'd be like, "God, I can never go back there." And then of course I'd be like, "Take me back there. I need to watch more horror movies." And then it'd be Psycho, and then it would be The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, and then it would be like, she's just like,
oh my God.
She just like was my curator. Yeah, as a
range.
As a child, yeah. And then she'd like read me like Edward Gorey books, and like just like, she's the coolest. She still is.
That is the aunt I aspire to be to all of my nieces and nephews. And that's me.
Yeah. No, that's
the parent.
And it was pivotal. It was pivotal because by 10, I was like, okay, I want to make those things that she's showing me. And and that was that.
I also had the crazy fun aunt who introduced us to films that we weren't allowed to see at home.
Women are the best.
It's like scary movies.
They really fucking are.
Yeah. Scary movie.
No, I was 7 and she showed me Scary Movie.
And you mean Scream?
No.
Oh.
I'm getting to Scream.
Oh, okay.
But my point is like, what's more inappropriate than the first Scary Movie when you're 7 years old?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you wouldn't understand any of it. You just be like, I don't even know what anyone is saying.
I mean, fair enough that when they get blasted onto the ceiling
from an orgasm,
you're like, that's not yogurt.
Yeah. Ew. Did you say yogurt?
Yeah. Well, you're a child.
Oh my God. Ew. God. No. Okay. So truly, I have a wonderfully crazy aunt who we got to do things when we went to her house that like we weren't allowed to do at home, like watch scary movies. And I was 7 when she showed us Scream, and they lived in this apartment, and like Scream is like a entertaining horror comedy to me today, right? Like there's nothing scary about it, but when you're 7 and you see Ghostface, I mean, like it was terrifying. And I remember it vividly. I woke up in a flop sweat after we watched the movie that night, and we're in our like fort, me and my 2 cousins on the living room floor in their apartment, and my aunt and uncle are in the other room in their bed. And I was just like convinced that Ghostface was outside that window next to us in the living room. And it was just so awful. And so I went and I stood in their room, and I was too scared to wake them up because I was terrified my uncle would yell at me. Oh. I just stood at the edge of their bed and stared at them. So creepy. Which was far creepier when they woke up and yelled at me anyway, because they were like, "What the fuck are you doing staring at us in our sleep?" And that's like the first time. I mean, I have so many memories in that age range of like terrifying experiences where I'd see a scary movie and I was never sleeping in my bed ever. I always slept in my parents' room, but that was one that stood out to me where I remember, and it was especially bad because I wasn't home, right? Like you're not home.
That's the worst when you're not home. You're not like familiar with anything. You don't know where anything is.
That might be why it stands out so vividly, but I remember like I wasn't allowed to see it. I was like, they were like, "Are you sure you want to watch it?" And I was like, "Yeah, because I'm at my aunt's and I can do that." And then I really regretted it.
Did that with the first Halloween too. She was like, "Do you want to?" "You do. You do." And I'm like,
"Trust me." Yeah. So that was like my.
The lesson is be a cool aunt.
Yeah.
The question:
how we got into horror.
That's like that's like a moment in the answer to that question.
Yeah.
But
my crazy aunt also had a hand in getting me into horror because she accidentally showed me Scream 2 when she was babysitting me.
There you go.
Is Scream 2 the one that starts in the movie theater?
Yeah.
Gotta rewatch.
Terry, what were you saying? I'm sorry I cut you off with my crazy.
So It kind of sounded like, did you see Scary Movie before you saw Scream?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, because that would be wild.
No, I had seen Scream first. I actually saw Scary Movie. I remember they had moved into a different house when I saw Scary Movie, so it had to be a couple of years later.
Okay. Because I just...
You're traditional, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that first Scary Movie is basically Scream. I just, with a whole lot more jokes. So like, it would have been wild to...
A lot more
to see the thing that that's parodying the thing. So that was
Oh,
More yogurt.
ashamed of myself.
Oh no. I can't wait till your kid one day stands at the foot of your bed like that and creepily wakes you up. You're gonna get revenge. They're gonna accidentally get revenge on you one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My parents always were so mean. We always went to Scary Movies opening night, packed theater. That was
shit.
That was truly what got me into not only film, was that we were always at the movie theaters, but horror in particular it's the experience that was very much
memorable.
like memorable to me, of being a kid, opening night, sold out crowd, horror films. They were always an experience. Like, I'll never forget The Ring. But like The Ring, my dad turned the TV on to static so that when I woke up to pee in the middle of the night, the TV was just on snow. When we saw The Grudge, my mom bought a white dress and a wig and crawled into my room going when my sisters went and saw Scream 3, my parents took me and we all drove down and moved their car with a spare key in the middle of the movie so that when they came out to the parking lot at 11 p.m., their car was gone. Like,
oh my God, what the fuck?
That was my parents. Like, we still do this shit to each other. So that was very, oh my God, when we saw Descent, like, I figured out a way to get behind my dad when he was watching the 11 o'clock news, eating his cereal, and did the sound, and it scared the shit out of him, and he jumped up with his cereal bowl.
Oh my God, your family is my worst nightmare. It
was always fun. We took the experience of the film home with us. That was the thing about horror that stuck with me.
So cool. Okay,
did it scare you after the movie? Were you a scared kid when you watched all these horror movies, or did you get used to them all the time?
All the time. I couldn't watch. One movie I was terrified of was Signs. Signs.
Fuck that movie. That movie is so scary.
Alien.
I was terrified. When I saw that film, I don't even know how old I would have been, but I was terrified.
That movie is very scary.
The movie scared the shit out of me. The movie scared the shit out of me.
I was always scared. I was a very scared kid.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into the Suzanne's movie, what movie has truly scared you recently that you've seen? What was the last movie to really scare you, get under your skin?
Yeah, you got it. You take this one.
I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to see it yet as critics and journalists, but Talk to Me. I got to see at have you guys seen it?
We saw that at Sundance, yeah.
Okay, so I saw it at Overlook in New Orleans.
Oh, cool.
I haven't been affected by a movie like that in a very, very, very long time.
He called me and he was like, I think I need to get on a plane and come home.
She was here with our son, and I was in New Orleans at the festival representing us for Becky. And I was halfway through the movie and I needed it to let go. I needed it to let me go.
Yeah.
I needed it to be over. And I have not felt like that since I was a kid. There is something so dark about that movie. I tell everyone, you have to go see it. You have to go see it in a theater. And at the same time, I will never watch it again. I just can't.
I can't wait to see it in a theater because I watched it on my computer and I need to see it in a theater because it's scary as shit. But I want the full big screen experience.
It's a visceral experience. It's it goes for your throat. It knows what to do. And I watched it on my home TV, but I was like, man, this would be a fantastic theatrical experience. So I'm glad it's getting one because, boy, that movie kicked me in the butt.
It's fucked
What's
up.
the Korean horror film you just watched?
Oh, Gojam Asylum or
Oh my God, Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. That movie's another fucked up movie.
Yeah, that movie's fucking scary.
Terry.
I watched that recently and I was terrifying. It's so scary.
That movie does
What's
some
the close up, which is like,
Oh my God, no.
Or the hands that come behind.
Oh God.
They come out of
You know
nowhere.
what? It doesn't like, with like horror films, basically at this point in my mind, like can't reinvent the wheel. Okay, that's not like fair, but like we have so much. There's so much now, and I still don't like. I don't need anything.
It takes a lot to reinvent.
It takes a lot, and like tropes exist for a reason. Just don't be like dumb with them. And like I wasn't getting like watching this like, oh, another found footage like is gonna scare me. I've seen that a bunch. Like it did.
For me, it was the scene where she's in the room with all the like cement pillars alone. And that thing is just like staring in the distance. But what was so brilliant about it is they didn't do the whole like 4 times you're with her, and as she looks, we look, and it hasn't moved. And you're like, oh my God, in any other film, they would have, like a studio would have been like, we needed to go faster.
Has to move closer.
And like has to move closer every time we cut. That's scary. And it's like, no, we've seen that a million times. What makes this so scary is that it doesn't fucking move closer. And you're like, oh, it's just not happening. I don't that
I'm getting
was
stressed just thinking about that part too.
I know.
Ooh, that movie is so scary.
Or how about The Dark and the Wicked?
Oh, that one. Yeah.
Oh,
Bertina.
That one is nihilistic, bleak.
I watched it, and then I had a fun time of being like, let's see if I can watch this in the maximum scariest potential situation, which was I was dog sitting for my friend in their creepy old house, turned off all the lights, put on noise canceling headphones, and I took an edible.
That sounds like a nightmare.
That sounds like a nightmare. But
And that same fucking night, something happened in the house that I cannot explain, and they still have not been able to explain. So it was just like, it was bad. I did it to myself, but boy, oh boy, was that horrific.
That's another movie where you're like, I've seen that type of movie before. I've seen it a bunch.
Yeah.
I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's it's so scary.
It was really well done.
It was so well done. And bleak.
So bleak.
Yummy.
He's like, you think The Strangers is bleak? Let me do this one.
Up. Yeah.
Strangers is like
commercial,
like fun. And this was like,
I mean, I had fun with this too.
Yeah,
because you're like, what?
It was, it was fucked up.
Yeah,
but nothing.
I need to watch it again, actually.
But Talk to Me, just nothing has permeated like Talk to Me in a long time.
Okay, I'm excited. I
can't wait to take
watch it,
but I don't know if I can watch it again. But she needs to see it.
He's gonna stand outside the theater.
You can sit there like this.
Yeah. Hey.
When you want to have fun and have scratchers to scratch, there's a playful way you can do just that. Scratch with the key or acrylic nail. Scratch with the quill from a porcupine tail. Use a belt buckle from your friend Lamar. Or scratch with your pick while you play guitar. You can scratch in a bunch of different playful ways. Scratchers from the California Lottery. A little play can make your day. Please play responsibly. Must be 18 years or older to purchase, play, or claim.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
New activation and upfront payment for 3-month plan required. Taxes and fees extra. Additional restrictions apply. See mintmobile.com for full terms.
Well, okay. We are now going to move on to talking about Suzanne / Matt's pick, but mostly Suzanne's pick. What movie did you bring with you today for us to discuss?
The unbelievable classic that we all love, Rosemary's Baby.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Okay, so in Rosemary's Baby, a young couple trying for a baby moves into an aging, ornate apartment building on Central Park West, where they find themselves surrounded by peculiar neighbors.
Yes.
All right, so I want to know, how old were you when you saw this, Suzanne? Why is this your Scarred for Life pick? Give us all the details. Tell us your horror story.
Well, it was my aunt.
Hell yeah.
Surprise. I was a little bit older. I was like 10. So, I've seen this movie now probably over 10 times, but easily.
Oh, at least.
Yeah, anytime like we're about to direct something, we just watch a movie. But as a kid, like Matt was just talking about the feeling that Talk to Me gave him. And I have no idea what that movie's about other than there's a hand. But in Rosemary's Baby, the feeling I remember having as a child was that it was violent, but there was no violence, right? There's really no violence in the movie, but like it felt so violent in like that it like violated me in some ways. And obviously she gets very violated in the movie. I remember specifically getting through the ordeal of watching that movie as a child and then being like, they don't show the baby? Like, what's wrong? What is wrong with that baby that they don't show this baby? Like, must be, if this movie can't show that baby, that is one fucked up baby. You know what I mean? Like, we went through all this to not see that. But it was very powerful to me, that it's more interesting not to show things, is ultimately what I took away from it. I don't think at 10, I was like, well, this is more interesting. I was just like, it maybe took me 10 years to realize that. But I remember that moment where everyone's so happy and then she just screams looking to the bassinet. That very much scarred me. And then as I got older and I started to learn about the movie and how Polanski shot it, and it just blew my mind. So I can talk about that too. But in terms of the one scene that fricked me up, it would be
you can say fucked you up.
Yeah, thanks. Fucked me up is the baby in the devil in the bassinet.
The moment.
Yeah.
What a fantastic moment. Because I'll tell you, Mia Farrow does such a great job in that moment. Just when it's on her and then you see the like looming like shock in her eyes. Yeah. And she's like, what have you done to it? What have you done to its eyes? It's like,
yeah. Oh, it's very
horrifying.
Scary. Especially just having had a baby when like it's not easy giving birth to a baby. Okay.
I always thought it was so scary the way that they're all just standing there. Like so like their job's done, unaffected. They're not like, oh shit, she's
they're
here
there for the finger sandwiches, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's
weird.
just so cold and you're like, what is happening right now? Like something about how
and the betrayal by the husband. Like to me, the most horrific things come by way of human error or human, not error, but like betrayal, like all those things. Like ghosts are scary, demons are very scary, all those things are scary, but like your husband betraying you so you could get raped by the devil so he could be famous.
Pretty fucked up.
Scary.
Pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up, I would say.
Yeah.
Pretty fucked up.
So you can have an acting career?
Yeah. That's bleak.
Bleak.
Yeah.
When did you see it, Matt? Was this like a movie you saw as a kid, or did you see it later in life?
I was probably 12 or 13 when I saw it, so I was still young, but I was at an age where it didn't scar me. Like I saw The Exorcist when I was I saw The Exorcist when I was 12 for the first time, and it still scarred me. Like that terrified me at 12. But there was something very it's the psychological nature of it and the very intellectual like nature of Polanski's Rosemary's Baby that I just wanted to like eat it up. Like it was such a study in film to me. And I think that's what has stuck with me in the 20 years or whatever since I've seen it, and why I watch it over and over and over again. And why we pull from it in films, there's like a character in our first film, The Open House, that was very much inspired by the female neighbor.
The older, Minnie, yeah.
Minnie. So yeah, I wouldn't say it scarred me. It scared me in human ways, right? And I was a little older, but yeah, I think it's a perfect film.
Yeah, it is a perfect film, even though John Cassavetes disagrees. I mean, there's so much drama, like so much film history in that movie too. Like John Cassavetes just butted heads with Polanski so much, but I think he said like, what did he say? Roman Polanski is an artist, but Rosemary's Baby is not a work of art, which is such bullshit.
It's crazy to me.
Oh shit.
Which is like, and it's because they were like completely two different directors and they just butted heads and like whatever. But
One of the most famous moments to come out of that film, and it's something I think every great filmmaker since has tapped into, whether consciously or subconsciously, is where you're looking at her on the phone through the doorways, through the door frame, but you can't see her. She's just off. She's just behind
one of the Satanists.
Yeah. And Polanski knew that if you sat in the back of the theater in that moment when the movie played, you'd be able to see the audience lean their bodies as if to try and see around the door frame.
Oh, fuck.
And
Okay.
sure enough, it's exactly what happened. When he sat in the film the first time, the audience tried subconsciously to see over. And
it's
it's just like
during dailies.
I
think they were showing it during dailies, and even like the executives did that.
Yeah. And it's just like, talk about putting you, like, sucking you into a movie.
But again, it goes back into showing not what you're showing, and what you're not showing is what you're not showing is just as important as what you're showing. So a woman who's sitting on the edge of the bed taking a phone call, and you know she's taking a phone call, but you can't see her. You just see her, her bottom half, is much more interesting than seeing her on the phone, fully on the phone. And as I got older, I figured out how they shot it, and it's those wide angle lenses. I mean, they shot everything with an 18 millimeter and a 25 millimeter lens, except for the opening shot of the Dakota building. And, Polanski had just come from Europe, shooting in Europe, and they weren't as, it's not a studio system like there is here. And so, I think that first one, the handheld shot of Mia Farrow walking down the street, and it's handheld, and the DP William, what's his last name? Famous Fraker. I think he set up the shot, and they put like a 40 millimeter lens on, and they put a nice like diffusion on her, and she looked all beautiful. And Polanski was like, no, like put that wide angle lens back on. And they were like, well, this is our star. You make her look beautiful. Like, we got to make her look delicious. And he was like, no, she's walking towards the building. The building needs to literally, with the wide angle lens, I need it to curve like it's coming over. So, and that's that European sensibility, less concerned with how the star looks. And, which is a very Hollywood baby type thing. And he just didn't subscribe to that. And I thought it was my obsession it started my obsession with wide angle lenses. Because, and then, the production designer and all the walls in the apartments were wild.
Yeah.
They can move all of them. And because the lenses were so wide, you couldn't put lights on the floor because you could see them. So the walls were the DP was able to light the walls and then move the source lights up and down, which now of course is pretty standard, but then was
now they do it all the time. But it's like,
it's interesting that you say that, because he came back from Europe, because when I first saw this, I didn't really think about the filmmaking, and this isn't a movie I don't know why I don't always go to this movie. I think this might just be the second time I've ever seen it, which is weird to me. But like when I first saw it, and I'll tell that story a little bit later, but like when I first saw it, I wasn't thinking about the technique behind it. And now that I have like a lot more film history behind me and I'm watching this, I'm like, this feels like an Italian horror film. Just the music, the way it opens up with that lullaby song that is just, it's so like off-putting.
So off-putting.
If it reminds me of like some Italian horror movies, like particularly from like Bava or from like Dario Argento that would later do that, like just sort of like that kind of era of the swooping cameras, the wide angle, it doesn't feel like an American made film, even though it is American. And so it's wild to me that when you get to revisit a film and see all the things either that influenced it, or the things that it was kind of pulling from, or the things that it in self influenced. It's really cool.
And we love foreign horror films. I mean, they were like the motivation behind our first film, The Open House. We wanted to make something that was just like very raw and bleak, because we love stuff like that. Michael Haneke, Suzanne can speak to.
Yeah, he's
her favorite director. He's one of my favorite filmmakers.
Oh, really?
Because I mean, for me, my Michael Haneke draw was when I saw Fun and Games for the first time, I hated it so much and realized 48 hours later.
Naomi Watts and Funny Games, right?
I saw the remake first.
Okay, you saw the remake. Okay.
And then I went back and watched the original, but I hated it so much. And I realized 48 hours later, I still couldn't get over how much I hated it. And I realized then that was good filmmaking. Like, it affected me so viscerally. And why did I hate it? Because when you kill someone behind a couch and I can't see who the fuck it is and you don't show me for 3 minutes and all I can hear is a screaming mother, I'm like, fuck you, man. Like, show me what's going on behind the couch. And then I realized, oh, that's brilliant. So it was it was kind of a big moment in my life in terms of my love for cinema. And it was the moment I really fell in love with Michael Haneke and then went back and started watching his work. And I think with Open House, we were like, let's kill everyone and just piss everyone off. Yeah. And unfortunately, we succeeded for better or worse.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When did you see this, Mary Beth, for the first time?
Sorry, I'm just looking up The Piano Teacher really quick.
Oh, I love
that's Haneke, right? That is Haneke?
Yeah, I love
it. Man, that was a movie I thought I hated and then realized I actually loved it.
See, that's what he does. That's what he does.
Yeah. I went down the Haneke rabbit hole and it was just like, I hate you, but I really like you and I know what you're doing. And it's infuriating and exhausting, but really smart.
Like his style is he just sets the camera up and lets you and you're left to your own devices.
He just has you watching with like
ballsy.
He has you watching with like a furrowed brow until all of a sudden you're like, what the fuck? Like that's what
Yeah, exactly. You're like, okay, yeah, what? And then you're just like, wait, I don't want to look at this anymore. And he's like, too bad. It's like, damn it. But the first time I saw this, so I actually saw this for the first time when I was in college. I lived in the women and gender studies housing. So of course I did. And so we had to have like mandatory events, like to justify us like living there and having special housing that we didn't have to pay for. So we would have, all of us were horror movie fans. We would like have horror movie nights and have discussions. And this was one of the movies and I had never seen it actually. And one of my friends was like, holy shit, you haven't seen Rosemary's Baby? And I was like, yeah, but isn't Roman Polanski a weirdo? And she's like, yeah, that was my first experience, like really big experience of like trying to separate art from artists and like that kind of thing, like discussion too, when I was in college, which was like a really interesting exercise as someone who was like one of the very first times I was like fully aware of someone being a bad person, but also admiring their art and like really like kind of coming to terms with that.
Yeah.
But because I loved this movie because I was so surprised, again, like everything you guys said, but it's so much slower. And I don't mean that as a bad thing necessarily, but it's a long movie. And like, I was so used to like much shorter horror movies. This is like over 2 hours long and it's such a fascinating slow burn. And I think it was just like everything about it and everything about like what it says about motherhood and patriarchy. And we've seen it all before, but this movie sets it up. Like this is like the blueprint. I think you've already said it. So many movies have followed. Like, yeah, we've seen a lot of Rosemary's Babies, but it's because of Rosemary's Baby and like what this film did to like shape an entire genre, which is insane. You know, isn't that like fucking wild? Like you make a movie and you just inherently completely change the trajectory of a genre. Like,
well, yeah, not just
that's like galaxy brain level crazy to me. Just like,
yeah, not just the genre, because this came out in 1968.
Yeah,
at the time, if I'm remembering correctly, like Easy Rider had come out right before that, and movies were having this like they were doing less of the big musical gaudy thing, and TV was getting very popular, and so studio heads were like, we need to start making stuff that they can't see on TV. And they had broadcast. I mean, I think we still have broadcast rules. Do we have broadcast? I don't know. But they definitely had, right. They definitely had broadcast rules back then. And you like basically couldn't kill anyone. And you definitely couldn't kill them the way Polanski was killing them. You couldn't have any nudity or any sex or anything like that. And so they started to like make these indie smaller films that ended up being commercial successes and like would throw, you know, Polanski was like 35 when he made, or 34 or something when he made Rosemary's Baby. So they were taking some risks, and it's kind of the beginning of not indie filmmaking per se, but like, you know, just different filmmaking, and, you know, letting artists take risks on a larger scale. And people showed up to watch those movies because they were successful. So.
And like Night of the Living Dead came out. I know it's like it wasn't as big, but like that's a similar time period of like the like kind of scrappy indie.
Exactly.
And Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a couple years later, and I know that's all genre, but it is like this kind of scrappy way of making movies. And I mean, and it's so funny you're talking about that, because I feel like something similar is happening now. It's not that it's not like they're invented, but there's like a resurgence in indie stuff.
Yes,
now,
there is,
which is interesting.
Studios make big ass movies, and that's basically it.
Yeah, I think
is what it feels like as indie filmmakers.
That's the age it's the age of blockbusters, right? So there's blockbusters. I should clarify, like there's blockbusters and then there's superhero movies. It's the age of superhero movies, and it feels like
the age of superhero movies.
Feels like there's some fatigue coming or happening. I'm fatigued, and
I'm so fatigued.
Like I was at every opening night of every Marvel movie for a number of years, and now I don't see them. Now I don't see them anymore because I just don't care.
Aside from Guardians of the Galaxy, which I saw because I love James Gunn, it's been a very long time since I've seen a Marvel movie in a movie theater.
Endgame I think was the last one I saw in a movie theater. So yeah, it's a different time, and I think there are a lot of really exciting independent creative voices breaking through.
And also people want to go back, you know, theaters like disappeared because of the pandemic, and people want to go back for specific things, it feels like. And
genres
one of them. And it's always been that way. I mean, horror will never.
It's a communal experience.
Yeah, it's that event I was talking about as a kid, where like you want that experience going to a film right now because you didn't get it for so long, and we need that escapism
and the connection. Like it is so easy to connect with people over horror films.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, imagine seeing Rosemary's Baby in theaters.
Yeah.
Like everybody, right when it comes out, like what that experience like must have been like that must have just been wild. Because I mean, again, we didn't have like crazy long trailers that gave everything away. It's just like, what are we about to experience? Like I can only imagine what that was like. Must have been so weird.
And pooped their pants.
Oh my god, I want to make a movie so badly, and like having the contract before you start. The trailer can't be longer.
Never happen.
I said I want, not I'm going to. Like can't be longer than 1 minute. You can't show anything past the halfway point. Like that's it. I just want to.
No.
I remember the first trailer for a movie that was so bad. I mean, look, I love Spielberg, but artificial intelligence was awful. And I remember the first trailer for AI was so exciting because we were like, we don't know what it's about. This is amazing.
You don't know what AI is about? It's literally AI.
You've never even seen the movie.
Yes, I have actually seen that one Spielberg movie. Yes, I have.
Okay.
I have.
But I just remember, I love the feeling of seeing a trailer that is a teaser because you're like,
yeah.
That's how I felt watching Barbarian. Like I was like, when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, this is giving away too much. And then you watch the movie, it's like, no, this is only giving you like a teaser moment. And that's like the first time I've seen a trailer. It was like, I'm walking in and I really don't know what this is going to be about.
Yeah, exactly. Good trailer, good movie.
Yeah, I had such a weird journey to watch Rosemary's Baby for the first time because I grew up. I remember seeing the picture of that's like, you know, the poster that we see all the time in like Blockbuster or Hollywood, and everyone's talking about scariest movie of all time. It didn't really ever interest me, and so like I never really watched it. But I was this is where it gets tricky. I was a huge fan of Nicole Kidman. I was a Nicole Kidman gay. I was like, I love her so much. And so when Stepford Wives was coming out, I wanted to read the book. And so I read Ira Levin's book, Stepford Wives, in order to prep for the movie. And after I read it, I was like, this is a really good book. Ira is a really good writer. Oh, he wrote Rosemary's Baby? I'm going to go read Rosemary's Baby. And so then I sat down and I read Rosemary's Baby and I was like, okay, I got to finally see this movie. And I don't remember how old I was. I was probably, where it would have been like in my 20s. I'd have to go look at when the Stepford Wives remake came out, but it was around that time. And I remember watching this movie and being just on edge the entire time. And it was the way the camera was capturing everything. And once we get to like the finale, and there's, as you had mentioned, there's all these people just sort of milling about, and they're just like pretending, acting as if there's nothing wrong here, as Rosemary is stuck and like just startled walking in on everyone celebrating and sees the black bassinet and the cross upside down, and the way the camera captures it, in particular her face. I just remember that image has been seared in my head for the last, I don't know, 20 years maybe, from whenever that Stepford Wives came out. But I just remember thinking,
Thank you, Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, seriously. All because of my love for Nicole Kidman.
That's an incredible journey to like Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. I think we're talking about the runtime of Rosemary's Baby. I think that's because he was like Polanski stayed so true to the book.
He did,
like,
absolutely.
He did. Okay. I was going to ask if anyone had read it, and
no, I haven't read it either. Now I want to.
It's a really good book, and this is a very, very faithful adaptation of it. I would say that it basically covers the entire book. It's from what I remember, it's been a long time since I've read it, but I just remember being really impressed, because there's been a lot of times where I've been so in love with a book, because I kind of grew up reading. I was an English major. Reading is like huge for me, and so I would read a whole lot of books in like the 90s when my parents were a little bit more strict on what I could see in the movie theater. So I found my escapism in books. And I just remember being so upset when I would read a book and I loved it, and then I would see an adaptation and it cut out like my favorite scene or whatever. And I would watch this and I'm like, ooh, this is actually capturing the essence of this book so incredibly well.
Yeah.
I think that's most adaptations, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's fine. But and like, it's hard to make
it is hard.
Movie,
but it's just a further testament to Polanski and what he did with that film.
Yeah, and also that they let him.
I was going to say that they let him.
Yeah, because he was just
as a European filmmaker,
a kid, essentially. Yeah,
different times.
Yeah, I love that movie so much. I love every aspect of it, down to like the lipstick Minnie wears, like the neighbor. Like, it's just.
I love the neighbors, and I love like when we first meet the neighbors, when it's like this tragic death of the woman Terry staying with them, and they just come waltzing down the street in these like bright outfits, like the camera, like they're and again with the wide angle lens and just like the camera sticking there, and you see these like bright, like not lights, but like beacons coming down the street, and like Minnie's got like we call it clown makeup with like the unblended blush, blue eyeshadow, but also she's just like very confident. And we don't see a lot of older couples like this in horror movies too. You know what I mean? Like, we don't get these cool old horror villains, and I love that. Because that's what's so scary. They're like, we always think of the elderly as weak and like unsuspecting, and like they're the ones that
not when you have the devil on the side.
Like she's just. I love them as villains. Like they're absolutely terrifying and like one of the most sinister villains in horror. But I just like their presentation and making them look so garish and crazy, and then having them be these like terrifying orchestrators of Rosemary's fucking raped by the devil. I mean, come on. It's just so good.
It's so good. And I can't go back to, I always circle back to the husband, and I'm like, why did you fucking do that, man?
Acting, man. Acting careers are hard. You gotta do what you gotta do, you know?
Yeah.
That's what jumped out at me on this watch is how much of a dick Guy is, and when you first meet him, the way that like he is sort of when they're being shown the apartment, he's sort of like mocking the guy that's like showing them, and he's asserting his aggressiveness. Like, he's standing in the doorway and he just like scoots on by, giving him a look up and down. It's so aggressive, it's so patriarchal, it's so like condescending, and I just like, ooh, even before this bad shit happens, you are not a good guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder, like, I wonder if they named him Guy as like a very.
I think it was probably a popular name back then.
Well, it's just
based on the book.
It's the kind of thing like Polanski would do,
but it's based on the book, so it'd be right.
That's true.
I still would love though if they named him Guy just to have him be like that guy.
Yeah, because he's such a douche. Like,
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
And
He
again,
really
like
is.
we're playing with those tropes of like she's kind of like the quiet woman and he is like the overpowering man. But I think Polanski is still diving into a lot of really interesting stuff here, especially in 1968 with like toxic masculinity and motherhood and patriarchy. And it's like, you know, we can say now like, oh, this is like totally not like up to our standards now, but this is from fucking 1968 where like this was not, and again, like it feels very European in what it's trying to get at with a lot of this stuff. And it's just really just a fascinating artifact of like that time and what horror movies are and we're going to become.
I have to rewatch it.
Yeah.
It's been like 5 years, which is way too long.
It's so good.
This is making me want to watch it so badly.
Yeah. And it's such a bummer that he's such a massive
piece of shit.
Yeah.
Piece of shit.
Like, thanks for that. I mean, we're not the victims, but like it's just a real bummer. It's a real fucking
It
bummer.
really is. It really is.
Rosemary's Baby was one of a trilogy, right?
Yeah. What was the first one? Repercussion or Revenge or
Repulsion?
Repulsion.
Repercussion. Can you imagine this movie, Repercussion? They're going to reprimand you.
I think I'm a total loser, and I haven't seen the other two.
We saw it a long time ago. It's a very similar.
When we were writing Open House,
yeah, I think it's a very similar premise.
They're all like
they call it like the apartment trilogy.
The apartment trilogy, right?
Yeah.
They're all in
Oh, that's right. I was trying to remember what the name was.
Yeah.
And I love the apartments in this fucking movie, man.
No, the way the wide angle lenses, they just make the hallways feel squishy. Yeah,
it's so good.
It's like this is what I think of when I think of like a classic crazy New York apartment. You know what I mean? Like a 1968 movie like this is just like this is what apartments used to look like.
When they have their first like housewarming party and the way they film it, where like even their friends, the way he films it, even their friends are like no one seems like they belong.
Yeah.
And everything feels off. And she gets so pregnant. It's so good. I need to watch it again too.
Oh God, I just feel so uncomfortable with her as she gets pregnant. Everything is so claustrophobic, and everything about this movie is like just so uncomfortable. Like you feel like nothing. It's like nothing truly like terrifying.
No, exactly.
But it's like this atmosphere, like this purely rancid vibe, like a perfectly rancid curated vibe.
You know what it is? It's the ultimate study in dread. Like it goes to show.
Okay.
One of my favorite. I think that's why it's one of my favorite horror films, and it's the same with The Shining in a lot of ways, where it is like such a study in the art of dread and how scary dread can be. Because it doesn't need to be that something in particular is happening. It could just be holding on something too long. It could just be pushing on something. When it's done correctly, it can be so effective in such an invasive way. And to me, that's the unexpected because it's subconscious, so it sticks with you. It's far more unexpected. And we talked about Haneke a little bit, right? Like it's far more unexpected in how it's horrifying than a jump scare. Yeah. And it's not the entertaining kind of horror. It is the very like intellectual kind of horror. And so that to me is what Rosemary's Baby or The Shining or Caché or Funny Games, like that's what those films do to me.
Yeah. And
I think they stick with me for far longer than just the other side of the coin, which is movies I fucking love. And that's like true genre slasher film, like stuff like that. Like it's a different side of the genre. And I just, I love that you can in one genre fit in
so many different things.
Yeah.
I love that he doesn't let us off the hook. Like a lot of times you would see this sort of dread build and then there'd be a jump scare, something to release the tension and reset. But he doesn't do that in this. There's literally no real like jump out moments to reset the tension. It just is for 2 hours and 17 minutes, just this feeling of dread that is just growing in your stomach along with the womb, with the baby in her womb. It's just like growing to that point where it's like, we're not going to let you off the hook. I'm not going to be easy on you. And I think that's why this movie kind of, even though this was the first time last night that I'd watched it in about 20 years, it's still like, I remembered specific scenes from it. I remember the way it made me feel. It brings you back to that tangible moment of seeing it for the first time. And I there's not a whole lot of movies that can do that, I don't think.
No, and also like the color palette, the production design, the wardrobe, the costume design, like the very pastel-y nature of Rosemary, Pixie Girl, you know, like all that, and then like just the production design of like the beds and the everything, and how like it just all, it's not what you think of when you think of a horror film, you know.
Yeah.
They even say in the credits, like, Miss Farrow styled by Vidal Sassoon. Like, it was like a fashion commercial almost. Yeah. And I mean, like, she's a star. I mean, she looks like Twiggy, or like has that Twiggy vibe, like that Maud vibe. I mean, I even got my hair cut like her at the pixie cut at the end. I got my hair cut like her when I was in college. I was like, there is no cooler woman than Mia Farrow.
Yeah. I love, that's great.
It's, you know, so I was looking up because I was curious about Ira Levin, and I was looking up his relationship to the movie and of course the book, and I did find this interesting quote where he said in 2002, "I feel guilty that Rosemary's Baby led to The Exorcist, The Omen. A whole generation has been exposed, has more belief in Satan. I don't believe in Satan, and I feel that strong fundamentalism we have would not be as strong if there hadn't been so many of these books." Of course, it didn't send back any of the royalty checks. But like, it's so funny. But like, it's true that this movie kind of set into the book and the movie both kind of set into our path of evangelicalism in the 70s, and this fear of Satan and this fear of like end of the world and Armageddon all kind of started with this movie, and then would go on to being The Exorcist and The Omen and all of the type of movies that were coming out in the 70s that were tackling kind of religious horror that would fuel end of times topics for the last 40 years. It's wild to me that you can kind of trace it back almost to this film and this book being such a big cultural experience.
That's fascinating. I mean, to this day, exorcism films are like guarantees, right? Like when you're a studio exec and you're pitched an exorcist film, you're like, yeah, let's do it, because you know, like you're going to get your money back. I mean, there's such an obsession around religious horror films. And so, yeah, the fact that something like Rosemary's Baby could be the catalyst for that subgenre within horror it's just a testament to what a powerful film it is.
It also reminded me reading that quote about what kind of Peter Benchley would say about Jaws later, like how he wishes he hadn't written it because it's done more harm to sharks than he could have imagined it being. And so it's just like,
poor sharks.
I know, I love sharks, but it's that sort of like that hits that moment, and then it sparks this absolute fear in people. And then to see sort of like how that kind of snowballs is fascinating, looking at it with, 40 or 50 years of distance between it.
Yeah.
God, you said The Omen. That brought back some. I saw that movie when I was really young. It's one of my favorites.
It's a good movie.
It's so fucking good. And that one's bleak. Just think about Bleak. That's a bleak ass movie.
The thing about The Omen that I didn't remember until we rewatched a few years back was how incredible that movie is with no CGI. If you made that movie today, all the monkeys would be CGI. When you watch that sequence, you're like, how did they do this?
Okay, all I can think about is how many monkeys were abused and injured in the process.
Well, way to make it bleak.
I'm sorry. Animals were not treated correctly. I mean, no one was treated correctly. Still,
gosh,
we're all on strike, awful. But like, especially those monkeys.
I don't even want to know where they found those baboons, or were they baboons? Something like that.
Yeah, they were baboons.
Baboons, yeah.
Yeah. Scary ass baboons.
When you watch that movie today, it's very commercial. Like the way it's shot is so cinematic and commercial. There's nothing like European about the way that film is shot. It's really incredible. And it holds up. It really holds up.
It does hold up. The effects are still really good. I mean, that line, "It's all for you, Damien," just like
I can't walk under.
Stayed in my head.
I can't walk under a church anymore without going, hey, like what, Suzanne, what she's like, I know The Omen,
get it.
The Omen, I know, I get it. I'm like, but like,
the
every
end
time I see a photo, if there's like a weird line or something, I'm like, oh my God, is this for telling? That's like,
wow. Well, is there anything that we want to hit on before we wrap up and give this our rating out of 5? I know there's 1,010,000 things we could talk about with this movie. but we'll be here forever if we suck.
There's one thing that I had a realization on this watch, and it's because, again, I had not seen this movie in so long, but boy, Hereditary really cribs from this ending. I love Hereditary. I think Hereditary is a masterpiece of a film, but I'm watching this, and when they're saying God is dead, Satan lives, the year is won and God is done, I'm like, this is pretty, and they're all saying Hail Satan. I'm like, this is Hail Pyman all over. Like I'm seeing that, and I'm like, oh, I see what we're kind of doing with this finale now that I've revisited this movie. It's wild how much this movie is like influenced. Even like the 1990 something movie with Keanu, The Devil's Advocate, is basically Rosemary's Baby told from the husband's perspective almost.
Oh, definitely.
She is. Her influence lingers.
See? She's everywhere, Rosemary. Yeah. I like to think about, like, I was thinking today, I was like, I wonder, after like the movie ends, like, because I'm a new mom, like, what did she do? Was she like,
I was wondering, and when you started talking about the black carriage and that,
but I actually know
like,
what
all
she
right, that's
would do
it.
because she's a mom. She's like, well, I'm a fucking kid now. This little devil.
There was a made-for-TV sequel that came out that Ira had nothing to do with, and then I'm trying to think what was it called. There was Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby, and
it's like a
right. And Patty Duke starred as Rosemary, and Ruth Gordon reprised her role as Minnie. And then Ira wrote in 1997 Son of Rosemary.
That's interesting.
In which the novel begins in 1989 with Rosemary waking up in a long-term care facility. She has been in a coma since 1973, and then discovers that her coma resulted from a spell the Coven cast on her when they discovered that she had planned to run away with her young son, Andy, who was 7 years old at the time. And so then the son was raised by Minnie and Roman, and it goes from there. I don't think the book got really good reception, unfortunately, but yeah, that was from 1997.
But see, my instinct was right. My instinct was right. She was like, I gotta raise this kid. He's my kid, even though he be the devil's kid.
Does the devil
as well.
pay child support?
That's a good question.
Cool.
Do you want to wrap this up and give this a rating out of 5?
Sounds good to me.
All right, Terry, how many devil's eyes out of 5 do you give Rosemary's Baby?
It's 5. I mean, this is a fantastic movie. I loved revisiting it to see how well it's held up, because it's 2 hours and 17 minutes long, but it does not feel that long. It just has a really fantastic pacing where scenes just sort of bleed into one another, and it just carries you along that entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And I love seeing, sort of now with so much more film knowledge, seeing kind of how it's kind of influenced other creators in that space. It's perfect. The director behind it, not so much, but the movie itself is perfect. So what about you, Mary Beth?
It's 5. I mean, also just hearing from you, Matt, and Suzanne about like the history behind it, because you have so much cool knowledge about it, and it's just knowing about how it came to be and what it kind of signaled for filmmaking and genre filmmaking, and just being able to re-experience the beauty of how it is shot and just everything about it, and how so meticulous it is, and how it builds dread. I think it's just such a masterclass. And like we said, talking about building suspense and dread, and just making an apartment feel like the worst place you've ever been. So it's a 5. But Matt and Suzanne, throwing it to you, leave the final word. How many devil's eyes out of 5 do you give this? Do you give Rosemary's Baby?
1. Imagine. 5, definitely. With the caveat that like the director's criminal. So
I'm gonna say, do you have anything?
No.
I'm going to say 5. I do think it's a perfect film. I think there's a reason that we watch that film before we direct anything. I also think if I were, and this is something I think is so wonderful about it as a piece of art, if I were going off to direct a family dramedy, I could still learn from Rosemary's Baby. Every film has, life has suspense and dread, and I think no matter what genre you're looking at, you could study this film and how Polanski and his team approach things and take something from it. So I mean, not many films do that. There are very few films that do that. It's also the kind of film I could finish and start over again and watch again and get something new from it every time I watch it. So 5.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you both so much for joining us to talk about Rosemary's Baby and Scream. Where can our listeners find you? Are you on social media? And the floor is yours. What do you have coming up? What do you want to plug?
I'm only on Instagram, kind of, at Suzanne Coote. Matt.
Hold on, I got this wrong the other day, so I got to look at what my
We're pretty bad.
We're really bad. Oh, I'm on Instagram as Matty Angel and Twitter is MattAngel23.
And just, the Wrath of Becky comes out and May 26th. And right now we're pens down in support of the writer's strike, of course.
Cool. And waiting for a fair deal so that we can
all start making some stuff again. But yeah, so we're just, I'm like making granola. So like homemade granola.
I love that.
There's granola.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
And I'm essentially Martha Stewart, but until we get a fair deal, then I will never make granola again, probably.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
I gave my handles, but yeah, go see Wrath of Becky.
Yeah.
It's our new.
Go see Wrath of Becky.
Our new film. The more people go see it and spread the word and have fun, then the longer it'll be in theaters. So spread the word.
Yeah, because I want to see the sequel too. So
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, got to get that going.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
So listeners, you've heard from us, but we want to hear from you. What was your experience with Rosemary's Baby? Send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com or reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm a Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. And if you want to help support us, we are on Patreon.
Thank you to Eric Parr for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
Won't somebody please think of the children? Won't somebody please think of the children? Somebody please think of the children.
When you want to have fun and have scratchers to scratch, there's a playful way you can do just that. Scratch with the key or acrylic nail. Scratch with the quill from a porcupine tail. Use a belt buckle from your friend Lamar. Or scratch with your pick while you play guitar. You can scratch in a bunch of different playful ways. Scratchers from the California Lottery. A little play can make your day. Please play responsibly. Must be 18 years or older to purchase, play, or claim.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room?
It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.